Welcome everybody to Unsheathed Sword Reviews. I am John.
I'm Vic.
And today we are here to talk about some swords from the one and only Angus Trim.
Friend of the show, G Trizzle.
Exactly. So, probably a little background here might make sense. So the way this happened is, as happens more often than is financially sane, I was paging through the Facebook sword groups looking at swords that were for sale, and sure enough, I came across this sword, which is a 13C.11 made by Mr. Gus Trim. And immediately upon looking at the specs and the weight distribution of it and the length of the blade and the proportion of the blade to the handle, I was like, I need this sword. Like, I need it right now. So he listed it in like 3 or 4 different places. So of course I commented in every single one and sent him a message on Facebook Messenger because I'm like that. So I ended up getting it, which was awesome.
Listen to me.
Exactly. He's like, you will sell me that sword. So anyway, he wrote back to me and he's like, yep, it's yours. Great. And that's exciting in its own right, not only because I'm going to get a new sword, which is great, but because it means a trip down to Angus Trim's Batcave, where he makes all of the magical swords. So it was awesome in that regard as well. And so I was already over the moon excited about knowing that I was going to get to go down there again, got to get to see Gus again because Gus is fantastic. It was going to be great. And then, on top of that, he's like, oh, by the way, would you guys be interested in maybe getting some samples of stuff to review that, you don't have to buy? And so when I woke up 10 minutes later, I was like, yeah, I think we would want to do that. And he's like, well, don't you think maybe you better ask Vic? And I was like, I'm pretty sure that I know what Vic's going to say. And so, sure enough, Vic was down, and here we are.
Yeah, all that happened really, really quickly. So yeah, when John let me know that he was buying the sword, again, I was excited, just as John said, because Mr. Trim lives about an hour away from us, so that always means we get to go down there, check out his shop again, the Batcave, and just get to BS with the man and talk about swords, pick his brain a bit with sword knowledge. This time I had some questions that I wanted to ask him about sword types. Mm-hmm. So that was a lot of fun, and then John sent me a screenshot of the conversation where Gus asked him if we wanted to review samples. I didn't reply right away because I had to go change my pants. After I did that, it was a resounding yes. And so then, so I was half expecting when we went down there, him to have models in mind that he wanted us to look at. Mm-hmm. But I was also, just given the nature of how we've interacted with him before, and every single time we've gone down there, he's been more than happy to just bring out sword after sword after sword for us to get to check out and to play with. Mm-hmm. So part of me was thinking, it'd be kind of cool if you just had an array of them and let us pick. I'd be totally happy either way, though. Well, you know what? The latter is what went down. So he had, 8, 9, maybe 10 swords somewhere around there?
At least 8, yeah.
At least 8?
Yeah, at least 8 swords, because he took some out, brought them back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was hard to keep track, but there were a lot.
So he was basically showing us what we could pick from. And so we picked 3 swords that we thought were interesting sword types, stuff we haven't really tried yet, and also things that would make for some good future videos, not just reviews. So off the bat, reviews of all 4 of these are going to be coming at some point. The 3 swords that are on loan to us will definitely be prioritized.
Absolutely.
But we're also going to make some other content with them, and that's why we picked these models. But John, why don't you talk about the one that you kind of fell in love with?
Okay, so this sword, this is an 18B.8, his .8 model of the 18B. I thought, the reason that I thought we should take this, and we both sort of agreed on this, is because we have a variety of other Type 18s that are laying around, some Angus Trim, some not, and we thought that it would be really neat to have just a discussion, maybe in podcast format, about the range that you can have. Let alone in Type 18s overall, but just even in Type 18Bs, the range that exists is unbelievable. So we thought it would be great for that. Little did I know that when I got it home, I was going to fall in love with it. So there's a solid chance that I'm going to just return a handful of money to Angus Trim instead of this sword. We'll see what happens with that, though. But yeah, so that was the main reason that we picked this, is because we thought it would make a lot of interesting content in comparisons with other items that we already have. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, we have several other, like you said, 18Bs, some not Angus Trims, but the ones that we do have that are Angus Trims, I have the 18B.10, and when I bought that sword, I bought it off Age of Chivalry before, we had a rapport with Mr. Trim, and I was actually going back and forth between the .10 that I ended up buying and the .8 because that was also available. So it was actually kind of really cool. I ended up getting the .10 because I wanted at the time, I thought it was probably going to be my only Angus Trim sword I'd ever buy. Oh, past Vic, you dummy. But I wanted like the most crazy light agile example of a long sword that I can get from him, and that definitely checks that box. However, I'm really happy that I got to experience and try out the 18B.8, and had I bought that sword, I would have been super happy with it. We'll get more into the differences between them and all that, but that sword feels spectacular, so I'm not surprised at all that you fell in love with it. So we have that to compare it to. I also have the Strasbourg on the wall behind me, and that is based on the 18B.13, I believe. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. So combined with the other budget and mid-range 18Bs that we have, that'll make it for a very, very good discussion.
Yeah. So, Vic, why don't you talk a little bit about that 16.9 over there, and how you've how it's basically Juliet to your Rosalind right here.
Nice, cool. All right. So what happened was, so first of all, I was enamored by this bad boy. So this is the 13A.2, right? And so pretty much the next high-end sword I'm gonna get in my collection is going to be an early war sword. I have the Ansbach. I love it. 16A, so it's a later war sword. But I love 13As and I love 12As. 12As specifically. So I want a good example of a war sword. So holding this, I was immediately enamored with it. I thought it felt fantastic. I think the silhouette of it, the flared shoulders.
I love the flared shoulders at the bottom of it.
Many 13As historically had. I really, really love the overall look of the sword, and it is very, very light. It's like 2 pounds, 9 ounces, something like that. We'll have full details in the review when we do it. So I immediately liked this sword a lot, to the point where like John was kind of poking fun at me while we were there, saying that, yeah, you're going to buy that. And even Gus was kind of smirking at me because he knows I'm financially irresponsible. Now, I will say this. When we got this back to my place and we did immediately cutting with it, I do like it a lot. It's really, really fun. It's really agile. However, the sword that I was more taken back by was this bad boy, the 16.9. We got this sword because we haven't reviewed a Type 16 yet. There's an interesting conversation to have between this and the Type 14, which there's some kind of overlap there, and they get mistaken for each other a lot. Also, I have the Ansbach, the 16A, and the blade is basically this, just longer. So lots of good content to come from this. However, this is somewhat of a unique 16 in that the grip is 6 inches. So a little bit longer than just a strictly single-handed sword, which means while gripping the pommel, you could just about get 2 hands on it, which turns this into a little baby hand and a half sword. And this is one of the most fun swords I've ever used. Swinging it around in one hand, it's almost like nothing's in your hand. It just goes through water bottles like they're not there. And then you put 2 hands on it, get that extra chutzpah, and it really moves. So I think this is a great example of dry handling will only kind of tell you so much in terms of how you like something. And then when you actually get to cut with it, this grew on me more and more and more. And I eventually kind of came to the decision of, I do really, really love the 13A.2, but I might also buy the 16.9. I think when I do get a war sword, I want a proper kind of a more stout version, especially because every time I pick up your 13C.2, I just like the way that feels. I like the heft to it. So I want a little bit more of a meaty war sword.
That completely makes sense, yeah.
So our going joke right now is, both John and I are trying to be financially responsible, but we might just hand Mr. Trim back rifle cases full of money, because that'll just be funny. But yeah, this freaking thing, this is amazing. I love it. I also love the color. The like maroonish color with the bronze pommel looks really, really good. So yeah, that this is my struggle right now, because you're trying to have the savings account look impressive, and every time it gets to a reasonable number, I'm just like, well, look at all that sword money. So yeah.
So again, I'm just we started doing this sword review channel, and we were like, wouldn't it be cool if somebody sent us a sword one time and they're just like, here, you can review this sword and you don't have to give us any money for it. And we're like, yeah, that'll never happen. And to have this happen is like, first of all, it just makes me wonder what reality I've slipped sideways into. But like, it just makes me feel like we've kind of made it. Like this makes it like, yeah, it's just a big deal. It's a really big deal.
Never in my wildest dreams that I think one of those people that might do that would be Angus Trim.
Me either. And then like, it never even occurred to me.
No.
And like, not only is he gave us swords to review, which we're going to return to him, which is awesome, but just getting to meet the man and spend time with him, like and overall the relationships we've made through this, like the whole thing. I mean, like Kane Shen, Alien Tude, and Matthew Jensen, and Todd Cutler, and we've exchanged some emails with Matt Easton. Like, I mean, just to make connections with these folks, and just they're all really cool, down to earth folks. It's been amazing.
And even like other up and coming channels, Derelict Sword, Andy, like guys like that we've got like more of a friendship with than we would have if we didn't do this channel.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And like grow our knowledge and our experience with swords. Like I am infinitely more knowledgeable about swords. I don't know if that's saying much than when we first started this channel, because it forces you to learn.
Yeah.
And so the position that we're in it's crazy. It's often mind blowing to me, and gotta say, thank you guys so much, because this doesn't happen without your support.
Exactly, without all of you supporting.
Without you watching, liking, subscribing, doing all of that, we wouldn't be in this incredibly privileged position to just have an array of A-trims on the table. That's ridiculous. So thank you guys.
Absolutely. So going forward, like we said, we have a lot of fun content coming out. But one thing to do is keep your eye on the community section, because we're going to have a poll coming up about which one of these swords you would like to see first in a review, along with a couple of other polls about what order we're going to do content in going forward. So keep your eyes peeled for that.
Yeah, we're definitely trying to get more engagement, more ideas from you guys. So if you have ideas, if you have just things you would like to see us talk about or videos you would like to see us make, reach out, let us know. If it's something we could do, we'll probably do it, because, hey, we're here for you guys. So
absolutely, for sure. So thank you very much for watching. I mean, hopefully you're even like 1/1,000,000th as excited about these swords as we are, because we've got a lot of fun stuff to talk about coming up. Thank you again to Angus Trim, and thank you for watching. Anything else, Vic?
No, the only thing I know that's not excited about these is my bank account. So,
Yeah, Angus Trim. He's like, it's kind of mutually beneficial if I can, hand out swords to you guys. You get some exposure. Da, 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 da. Meanwhile, like, there are people on deserted islands that know about Angus Trim swords. Yeah. He doesn't need anything from us. He's just trying to sell us more.
I feel like he knew we'd buy. Like,
he knew.
I'm not saying F you, sir. But like, you knew you were gonna hook us.
Exactly. You knew at least one of these was never coming back, and you knew it.
Also, well played.
Yeah,
that's fair.
It's worth pointing out that like when he looks at us and he knows there's a sword that we really like, he gets like this impish look in his eye.
Yeah,
it's like a demon of financial irresponsibility has possessed him or something.
It's like awesome. He knows. It's like he knows that connects with us, and he's just like, I'm not saying you're gonna do it, but do it.
Nailed it. That's what it is. Yeah. So, anyway, thank you very much for watching, and keep your eyes peeled for future content.
Yep. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications.
Peace.